I want you to imagine something for a moment. Picture your body as a high-performance hybrid vehicle, not a cheap one. A well-engineered machine with two separate fuel systems built right into the frame. The first tank is small. It sits up front, easy to access, always ready. That is your glucose tank, your sugar supply. Convenient, fast, but critically limited. Most people carry somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 calories worth of glucose stored as glycogen in their liver and muscles. That is it. At a normal activity level, you can burn through that in a matter of hours. But here is what most people never think about. You have a second tank, and this one is massive. It sits in reserve, in your belly, your hips, your back, your thighs. We are talking tens of thousands of calories of stored fat, premium fuel, high-density energy that your body spent months, maybe years, carefully building and storing. The average American carrying even modest excess weight is walking around with 30, 40, 50,000 calories of reserve fuel strapped to their body at all times. Now here is the part that should make you stop and think. You are exhausted by 2 in the afternoon. You are starving by 11 in the morning, even though you ate breakfast 2 hours ago. You feel foggy, irritable, and completely dependent on your next meal, while simultaneously dragging around enough stored energy to fuel a small expedition. How is that possible? How can you feel like you are running on empty when your reserve tank is full? The answer is not your willpower. It is not your discipline. It is not that you are doing something wrong or that your metabolism is broken in some irreversible way. The answer is one molecule. One hormone that is governing the entire system without your awareness. And until you understand what it is doing inside your body every single day, hour by hour, meal by meal, you will keep feeling trapped in a cycle that makes no biological sense from the outside, but makes complete sense once you see the mechanism clearly. Stay with me through the next 20 minutes, because what I am about to explain will fundamentally change how you understand your own body. And the shift in how you eat that follows from this understanding is not complicated. It does not require counting anything. It does not require giving up foods you love. It requires understanding one switch and learning how to flip it. The molecule is insulin. You have almost certainly heard of it in the context of blood sugar regulation. And yes, that is one of its roles. But the part of insulin's job description that almost nobody explains clearly is this. Insulin is your body's primary fat storage hormone. Every time you eat, every meal, every snack, every handful of something grabbed while standing at the kitchen counter, every protein bar between meetings, every flavored coffee drink, your blood glucose rises and your pancreas releases insulin in response. Insulin signals your cells to absorb that glucose. It directs your liver to store excess energy as glycogen. And when glycogen stores are full, it facilitates the conversion of remaining energy into triglycerides, into fat, and locks that fat inside your adipose cells. This is completely normal physiology. Insulin is not your enemy. Without it, you could not survive. But here is the consequence that develops over years of the eating pattern that defines modern American life. Eating from shortly after waking until close to sleep, every 2 to 3 hours, with almost never a genuine extended break. In this pattern, insulin is chronically elevated. Not at dangerously high levels, just persistently, consistently higher than it would be if your body had regular, extended windows without incoming food. And the specific consequence of chronically elevated insulin that matters most here is this. It blocks lipolysis. Lipolysis is the process by which your fat cells release stored fatty acids into your bloodstream to be burned as fuel. The storage of triglycerides in adipose tissue is mediated by insulin, which stimulates fat cells to take up glucose and synthesize new triglycerides for storage. ResearchGate. And the reverse is equally true. When insulin is elevated, the enzymes responsible for breaking those triglycerides down and releasing their fatty acids are actively suppressed. In the fed state, insulin engagement of the insulin receptor results in phosphorylation and activation of signaling pathways that dampen the stimulatory actions on the fat-releasing enzymes inside your adipose cells. ResearchGate. The door to your reserve fuel tank is locked, and the key that locks it is insulin. This is the metabolic paradox that most Americans are living inside without realizing it. Their insulin is chronically elevated because they are eating in a pattern that never allows it to genuinely come down for long enough. And because insulin is chronically elevated, their bodies cannot access the massive reserve of stored fat they are carrying. So they run on glucose, constantly. They drain the small tank, feel the dip, eat to refill it, spike insulin again, store more fat, and repeat. Day after day, year after year. The reserve tank keeps growing. The dependence on constant glucose input never resolves. Scientists call this state metabolic inflexibility. A metabolically flexible state exists when there is a rapid switch between glucose and fatty acids during the transition between the fed and fasting state. Dermatology Physicians of Connecticut. Metabolic inflexibility is the loss of that ability, the state where your body has become so habituated to running on sugar that it has essentially forgotten how to access fat as a fuel source, even when that fuel is abundantly available. Obesity and type 2 diabetes are associated with metabolic inflexibility, characterized by an impaired ability to switch between substrate storage and utilization pathways. Metabolic inflexibility during obesity is typified by lower engagement of fatty acid metabolism despite an ample supply of stored lipids. Ginfinity. Think about what that means in plain language. Your body has the fuel. It is carrying it everywhere you go. But the metabolic machinery for accessing it has gone dormant from disuse. You own a hybrid vehicle, but you have been running exclusively on the gas engine for so long that the electric motor has not been engaged in years. And the solution is not complicated. It does not require a pharmaceutical intervention. It does not require an extreme dietary overhaul. It requires giving your body an extended window without incoming food, long enough for insulin to genuinely fall, so that the fat-burning machinery can wake back up and start doing the job it was designed to do. This is what intermittent fasting actually is at its core. Not a diet trend, not a weight loss gimmick. A structured approach to restoring the hormonal conditions your body needs to access its own stored energy. And the timeline of what happens when you stop eating, hour by hour, is more specific and more fascinating than most people realize. Here is the honest picture of those first hours. Because if I skip over this part, you will think something is wrong with you when it happens, and you will stop before the window where everything changes. You finish your last meal. Maybe it is 7 in the evening, maybe 8. The first few hours are unremarkable. Your body is processing what you ate. Insulin is clearing glucose from your bloodstream, and you feel normal. 4 hours in, you might notice nothing at all, or a mild awareness that you have not eaten recently. This is still the post-absorptive phase. Your body is finding glycogen in your liver and pulling from it to maintain blood glucose as insulin continues to fall. But somewhere around hour 5 or 6, if you have been a consistent 3 meals plus snacks person, something shifts. And it is not subtle. A low-grade irritability appears. Small things that would not normally register start to feel annoying. Your thinking gets a little slower, a little foggier. A dull pressure arrives somewhere behind your eyes, and your brain starts sending a very clear, very insistent message. Eat something. Eat something now. Something is wrong. This is not sustainable. Here is what is actually happening. Your brain is detecting that liver glycogen is being depleted. Your blood glucose has not dropped to a dangerous level. It is being carefully maintained by your liver's gluconeogenesis activity. But your brain is running a pattern match against past experience. It has been fed at this time for years. The expectation is food. And a hormone called ghrelin, your primary hunger signal, is spiking in alignment with the clock time when you typically eat. Not because you are genuinely in energy deficit, but because your circadian system has been trained to anticipate food at this time. Most people experience this ghrelin spike and interpret it as proof that they need to eat. They eat, insulin rises, the glycogen refills, and the fat-burning window never opens. But here is the critical piece of biology that most people never discover. Ghrelin does not keep climbing indefinitely. It rises in waves, peaks, and then falls, typically within 60 to 90 minutes, even if you do not eat. The hunger signal is not a linear alarm that gets louder and more dangerous the longer you ignore it. It is a rhythmic pulse that your body learned to generate at mealtimes, and that rhythm is entirely trainable. If you simply wait through that wave, if you get to the other side of it without eating, the hunger dissipates. Your body, finding no incoming food, begins making a decision. It starts looking for alternative energy, and it finds what it has been carrying all along. This transition, the metabolic switch from glucose dominance to fat as the primary fuel, does not happen the moment insulin falls. It happens after an extended period of low insulin, typically somewhere in the 12 to 16-hour range, depending on your metabolic state, your activity level, the composition of your last meal, and your degree of insulin sensitivity. As blood glucose levels fall during fasting, the pancreas secretes increased amounts of glucagon. This action also reduces insulin secretion, which in turn decreases glucose storage in the form of glycogen. Outwork nutrition. Glucagon is insulin's counter-regulatory partner. Where insulin promotes storage, glucagon promotes mobilization. As insulin falls and glucagon rises, the enzymatic brake on your fat cells begins to release. The key enzyme in this process is hormone-sensitive lipase, or HSL. Think of insulin as a security guard standing at the entrance to your fat storage vaults, keeping the doors locked when energy is incoming and abundant. HSL is the mechanism that opens those vaults when the guard steps back. In the hypoinsulinemic state of fasting, the potent inhibitory effects of insulin on lipase activity are attenuated, and signaling pathways converge on the lipolytic release of fatty acids. ResearchGate HSL activates, enters your fat cells, and begins breaking down stored triglycerides into their component parts, free fatty acids and glycerol. Those free fatty acids are released into your bloodstream. They are now circulating fuel, available to every tissue in your body that can oxidize them for energy. And here is the moment that people who have pushed through the discomfort of fasting always describe as the turning point. You have been going 16, maybe 17 hours without food. By all logic, you should feel worse than you did at hour 6. You should be dragging. Instead, something unexpected happens. The fog lifts. Your thinking sharpens. A quiet, steady energy arrives. Not the caffeinated jitter of pre-workout, not the unstable spike of sugar. Something that feels almost primal, focused, alert, capable. The biology behind that experience is genuinely elegant. Free fatty acids are transported in the blood, bound to albumin, and are either oxidized in tissues by beta oxidation or converted to ketone bodies by the liver. ResearchGate. Those ketone bodies, primarily beta-hydroxybutyrate, cross the blood-brain barrier and become an extraordinarily clean and efficient fuel for your neurons. Your brain, which has been running on glucose and managing the metabolic byproducts of glucose combustion for years, is now running on something different. The cognitive experience of that shift is real and documented. Reduced brain fog, increased mental clarity, a sense of settled, sustainable focus that most people have not felt since they were much younger and metabolically much more flexible. Let's get concrete about implementation, because all of this mechanism matters nothing if it does not translate into something you can actually do within the architecture of a real American life. The protocol needs to fit your schedule, your social patterns, and your existing level of metabolic flexibility. Because starting too aggressively when you are deep in metabolic inflexibility produces the worst of the early discomfort, with none of the adaptation that makes it sustainable. If you are starting from zero, eating breakfast, multiple meals throughout the day, snacking regularly, the right first step is not immediately jumping to 16 to 8. The right first step is compressing your eating window gradually. Start by pushing breakfast back by 1 hour for the first week. Then push it back another hour the following week. You are training your ghrelin rhythms progressively rather than abruptly, which produces a far more manageable transition, with significantly less of the irritability and hunger spikes that cause most people to abandon the approach in week 1 before any metabolic adaptation has occurred. Once you have established a consistent 16 to 8 window, finishing dinner by 8 p.m. and beginning eating at noon the following day, or whatever timing fits your schedule, the fasting hours become the non-negotiable anchor of your day. Black coffee, plain tea, and water during the fasting window are appropriate and do not meaningfully elevate insulin in ways that interrupt the process. They also make the fasting period significantly more manageable in practice. Electrolytes, particularly sodium, potassium, and magnesium, become important for anyone fasting beyond 16 hours regularly, as fasting-induced reductions in insulin cause the kidneys to excrete more sodium, which pulls fluid and other electrolytes with it. Mild headaches and fatigue during early fasting periods are often electrolyte-related rather than caloric depletion-related, and addressing them directly resolves the symptom rapidly. Within the eating window, 3 things determine how effectively the fasting period's hormonal work is preserved and extended. First, how you break the fast. The first food your body encounters after an extended, low insulin window will trigger the first insulin response of the day. Breaking your fast with refined carbohydrates or sugar causes a sharp insulin spike that immediately re-engages fat storage signaling and ends the fat-burning state abruptly. Breaking it with protein and healthy fat. Eggs, a protein shake with minimal carbohydrates, salmon, avocado, produces a much more gradual and modest insulin response that extends the metabolic benefits of the fasting period into the first meal rather than terminating them. This is not about eating perfectly within the window. It is about the first meal specifically, because that first insulin response sets the hormonal tone for the hours that follow. Second, protein adequacy. Your body weight in pounds multiplied by 0.7 gives a reasonable daily protein gram target for most active adults. Distributed across 2 or 3 deliberate meals within your eating window, this level of protein intake ensures muscle preservation, drives satiety through hormonal pathways, including GLP-1 and peptide YY, and produces the highest thermic effect of any macronutrient, meaning your body expends more energy processing it than equivalent calories from carbohydrates or fat. Protein is the variable within the eating window that most directly determines whether the fasting period is muscle-sparing or muscle-depleting. Third, the degree to which you graze versus eat distinct meals within the window. 8 hours of continuous eating, picking, snacking, nibbling throughout the permitted window keeps insulin elevated for most of those hours, which partially undermines the benefits of the fasting period that preceded it. 2 or 3 deliberate meals with genuine gaps between them produces better insulin dynamics, allows insulin to fall between meals, and creates a more favorable overall hormonal environment for the day, even within the eating window. The longer-term picture, 6 months, a year, 2 years of consistent practice, is where the real transformation occurs. Not because the approach becomes dramatically different over time, but because metabolic adaptation compounds. Your insulin sensitivity improves, which means smaller insulin responses to the same meals. Your fat-oxidizing enzyme systems upregulate, which means fat mobilization during fasting periods becomes faster and more complete. Your ghrelin rhythms fully recalibrate, which means morning hunger on fasting days becomes genuinely mild rather than the urgent, distracting signal it was in week 1. Your visceral fat, that metabolically toxic tissue wrapped around your organs, decreases consistently, reducing the systemic inflammatory load it was generating, improving your insulin sensitivity further, and creating the positive feedback loop that is the metabolic flexibility flywheel in motion. You have been carrying a reserve tank your entire adult life. 30, 40, 50,000 calories of stored energy available in principle, inaccessible in practice, because the hormonal conditions to open the valve have almost never been consistently created. You were not failing to lose fat because you lacked willpower. You were failing to lose fat because you were never told that the timing of your eating matters as much as the content, that your body needs extended windows without incoming fuel to remember how to run on its own reserves, that the discomfort of the first 2 weeks is not a warning sign. It is the metabolic recalibration that precedes the shift. You own a hybrid engine. You have always owned it. The electric motor has been sitting dormant, waiting. And now you know exactly how to turn it on. If something in this video clicked for you, if this changed how you understand your own biology, hit the like button. It is the single most effective thing you can do to help this information reach someone else who is standing in the same place you were at the beginning of this video. Subscribe for this level of depth every week, and tell me in the comments, what is the one thing about how your body stores and burns fat that nobody ever explained to you before today? Because that answer shapes everything I make next.